What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 14:18 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Europe. Lots of breaking news to report to you guys this afternoon. So we have some major breaking news coming in from Germany. So the U.S. will be deploying long-range weapons in Germany. This was revealed at the NATO summit, which is ongoing. It ends tomorrow. This was revealed in a joint American-German statement stating that the U.S. will begin deploying long-range weapons in Germany as soon as 2026. The United States will be deploying Tomahawk cruise missiles and other long-range weapon systems in Germany. Guys, this is very, very serious. The U.S. has not deployed these types of medium to long-range weapons in Germany since the Cold War. Okay, we used to have medium-range missiles in Western Germany, and we're doing the same thing now. Okay, so we are literally going back to the Cold War era. Russia has already deployed medium to long-range cruise missiles in Belarus and in Western Russia years ago. During the Trump administration, actually, Russia deployed their Screwdriver long-range ground-launched cruise missile, and that's why Trump pulled out of the INF treaty, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, because Russia deployed this 2,000-mile range ground-launched cruise missile with nuclear warheads. So it appears that the U.S. is going to do the same thing now. We're going to be deploying long-range missiles or medium-range missiles, including Tomahawk cruise missiles in Germany, and most likely they're going to be nuclear tipped. Okay, now in addition to this, the U.S. plans to reopen some of the nuclear storage bunkers in the UK, and they're going to be moving more B-61s to Europe in the UK. We haven't done that since the Cold War, guys. Okay, we used to have hundreds of B-61 nuclear gravity bombs in the UK, and after the Cold War ended, we took them back, but now we're moving them back to the UK. So you see what's going on here. You see the buildup. Okay, Russia and Belarus pulled out of the Conventional Forces Europe Treaty. Poland did the same thing. So did the U.S., so now both sides can mass an unlimited amount of forces on each other's borders. Poland officially requested that the U.S. include them in their nuclear sharing program. And this update was sponsored by Patriot Supply. Guys, Patriot Supply is doing a discount on their 1-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. This is a 1-month freeze-dried food supply. It has a 25-year shelf life. Normal price is $237. They've dropped it down to $177. So that's a savings of $60. And it's all packed within 2 rugged, water-resistant buckets. Free shipping is included. $177 for 1 month of food. Where are you going to find a deal like that? They also have a general store, and they're always running discounts in their general store on various prepping and survival items. They have everything from MREs, potassium iodide, to survival seeds. And to get to their general store, you got to click on the Patriot Supply logo at the top of the page when you get to preparewithnyprepper.com. And you'll see when you get there, they have everything you can imagine. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $60 off the Patriot Supply 1-month emergency food supply. That's $180 for 1 month of food, free shipping included. The link is in the description below this video, and also check out their general store. They have everything you can imagine prepping and survival related, and they're always running various discounts there. And all evidence points to the fact that the U.S. is preparing bases in Poland for delivery of nuclear weapons to Poland and training Polish F-16 pilots on delivery of these B-61 nuclear gravity bombs. Russia and Belarus have deployed their tactical ballistic missiles to the border of NATO and Ukraine, which have tactical nuclear warheads on them. Okay, the Iskander missiles. So the buildup is real, guys. We also moved a boomer to Scotland, to Fastlane, which is where the UK keeps all of their Vanguard-class nuclear-armed ballistic missile submarines. We moved one of our boomers. A boomer is a slang term for a nuclear-armed submarine. Our Ohio-class subs, we moved one of them to Scotland recently. So this is very, very serious, guys, okay? The build-up to nuclear war and World War III is real. America will be deploying Tomahawk missiles and other long-range missiles to Germany. Now, speaking of long-range missiles, we actually deployed one in the Pacific. In the Philippines, we deployed a long-range cruise missile that has a range of like 4,000 miles in case we want to strike China. We're also giving Australia a bunch of Tomahawk missiles that I believe are going to be launched from silos. And also we're giving Australia nuclear-powered submarines that will be able to handle the Tomahawks as well. Okay, so we are building up towards nuclear war and World War III. If you haven't seen my nuclear war survival videos, I recommend you check them out. I'll leave a link in the top right corner to my nuclear war survival playlist. And what you're looking at here are two B-52 nuclear bombers airborne over Louisiana. We've been seeing nuclear bombers in the air over the United States basically every single day for the past month, about 2 or 3 on average every single day. And what this tells me is that they are doing some intensive training and preparation for a possible war with Russia and China, a world war, a nuclear war. The B-52s are part of our nuclear triad. They carry the AGM-86 air-launched cruise missile, which can carry the W-80 thermonuclear warhead, which has a blast yield of 200 kilotons. And each B-52 can carry 20 of these air-launched cruise missiles, so they are a force to be reckoned with. Now, speaking of flights, I get a lot of emails and questions about balloons in the air, and I want to just let you guys know that if there's any kind of hostile balloon over the United States, you're not going to be able to see it on Flight Tracker. So if you see balloons on your flight tracker, it's not Chinese, it's not Russian, it's not any of our enemies, because if they're going to send a balloon over our country, it's not going to have its transponder turned on. It's going to be flying dark, okay? So these balloons that everybody's seeing are just probably weather balloons, observation balloons. That's it, okay? So just wanted to let you guys know that because I've been getting a lot of questions about that. I want to remind you guys that 2 nights ago we had Russian nuclear war radars blaring and we could hear them on multiple frequencies. Here we have a sound clip of one of these Russian nuclear war radars turned on. So there were several Russian nuclear war radars turned on Monday night, and at the same time we had an American nuclear war radar that was playing as well. Now, a lot of people were asking me Monday night in my live stream, why is this so unusual? Well, we normally don't turn these radars on unless something is about to go down. okay, because these are long-range radars that draw a ton of electricity. Same thing with Russia, okay? They don't turn these on unless something is about to go down, or they're testing something, or there's a purpose for why they're turning them on, okay? You don't just turn these types of radars on and leave them on all the time because they draw a ton of electricity. Just one of these radars can draw the same amount of electricity as a city of 50,000 or 100,000 people. Okay, these are radars that can see up to 3,000 miles away the launch of ballistic missiles, or even further, and aircraft. Okay, so they don't turn them on unless there's some kind of threat, or they're training or whatever, or that sometimes they use them for jamming purposes to jam some of our nuclear war frequencies. But we had several Russian nuclear war radars turned on Monday night. I'm not exactly sure why. And Anthony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, confirmed today at the NATO summit that the first F-16 fighters for Ukraine will begin flying in Ukrainian airspace this summer. So that is absolutely huge news, guys. Okay, F-16 fighter jets will be flying in Ukraine this summer, according to Anthony Blinken. And the Netherlands said that they're going to be allocating 300 million euros for the purchase of ammunition for the F-16s that will soon be delivered to Ukraine. And the new British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said it would be okay for Ukraine to use British Storm Shadow cruise missiles to conduct deep strikes on Russian territory. Keir Starmer signaled Ukraine can use Britain's Storm Shadow missiles to strike military targets inside Russia, confirming he would continue the previous UK government's policy on the use of its long-range weapons in the Russia-Ukraine war. Starmer agreed it was up to Ukraine on how to use the Storm Shadow missiles donated to them by the UK when asked by a Bloomberg reporter. So this is absolutely huge news, guys. We're not talking about defensive strikes, retaliatory strikes. We're talking about deep strikes that are preemptive or even offensive on Russian territory, okay? And the Financial Times has reported that the British Labour Party, which is the new dominant party in the British Parliament, will allow Ukraine to conduct deep strikes inside of Russian territory with British weapons. So the Prime Minister is saying it, the British Parliament is now saying it, so this is a huge step up in the escalation ladder. And NATO officials told Foreign Policy magazine that NATO will call for all 32 nations in NATO to put in place civil defense plans at the DC summit to use in case of an attack on NATO requiring an Article 5 response. NATO wants nations to prepare for Russian attacks that could hit ports, bases, and energy infrastructure. Okay, so this is why we've been seeing so many countries in NATO the last few months updating their civil defense plans and releasing war survival guides for their citizens. We had Latvia, Sweden, and a bunch of European countries issuing survival guides to their citizens in the event of a war with Russia. The mayor of Warsaw, the capital of Poland, said that they're going to be building thousands of bomb shelters across Warsaw, and they're going to be looking at fortifying existing structures to turn them into nuclear war fallout shelters, including the Warsaw metro system. So that is huge news, guys. And the Associated Press reported that NATO allies have committed to sending dozens of air defense systems to Ukraine, including 4 Patriot systems. And this is on top of the 8 Patriot systems that Israel plans to give to Ukraine. Okay, so I've said this before and I'll say it again. Israel giving Ukraine 8 Patriot systems is absolutely huge. And it's like 2 or 3 times the amount that NATO allies have given to Ukraine. Okay, so First of all, big thanks to Israel. Second of all, Russia threatened Israel, saying that there would be consequences if Israel gives Ukraine these 8 Patriot systems. And so, could this be the hooks in the jaw for Vladimir Putin? Okay, the hook in the jaw is from Ezekiel 38 and 39 in the Bible, when God puts hooks in the jaws of the leader of Russia and pulls him down into the Middle East and destroys him and his armies. Okay, could this be the hook in the jaw? Is this how God plans to lure Russia down into the Middle East and then destroy them there? I don't know, guys, but this is very, very serious. We now have Russia openly threatening Israel. Okay, that is biblical. And Secretary of State Anthony Blinken indicated that Ukraine was irreversibly on the path to joining NATO as long as it continues reforms, and he suggested that it only had a short bridge to join the defensive alliance. And the Polish president poured cold water on the idea of Ukraine joining NATO very soon, saying that Ukraine cannot become a NATO member while it is in a state of war with Russia. And NATO is going to make important decisions on Ukraine this week, according to NATO leader Jens Stoltenberg. We will make decisions on Ukraine, and I think what you have seen over the last days demonstrates the need to step up our support for Ukraine. And the State Department says Anthony Blinken and NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg discussed expected decisions at Thursday's NATO-Ukraine Council to build a bridge to NATO membership while enabling Ukraine's defense against Russian aggression today and in the future. Okay, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to build a bridge for Ukraine to join NATO. This is huge news, guys. And Jens Stoltenberg, the leader of NATO, said at the summit, "We've seen new Russian missile attacks against cities, against a children's hospital. Many children and civilians have been killed, and it just demonstrates the brutality of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine and the importance of us supporting Ukraine." And we have some interesting developments coming out of Poland. So Poland stopped the passage of cargo trucks from Belarus to Poland last night. The Belarusian State Customs Committee informed that as of 3 a.m. local time on July 10th, Poland stopped accepting trucks from Belarus to Poland through the Kozłowice-Kukuryki checkpoint, which is in southwestern Belarus. And it's reported that the number of trucks in queue to cross the border into Poland has grown to over 600. Okay, over 600 trucks waiting to cross into Poland. And the Kukuryki-Kozłowice border crossing is the only functioning cargo checkpoint on the border between Belarus and Poland. Now, what's interesting is that Poland decided to close this border crossing literally a day after the Belarusian military confirmed that Chinese forces started doing exercises in southwestern Belarus at the Brest training ground just 2 miles from the Polish border. The Kukuryki border crossing is literally right next to this training ground where the Chinese troops are training with Belarusian troops and where there's thousands of Russian forces permanently stationed, along with S-400 air defense systems, along with Iskander missiles with tactical nuclear warheads on them, and other offensive short-range ballistic missiles, all deployed within just 3 miles of the Polish border. And now Chinese forces training there, and now Poland closing the nearest border crossing to cargo trucks. Very smart move by Poland. Obviously, Poland's concerned that maybe Belarus could use these cargo trucks to secretly bring troops or explosives into Poland, maybe. I don't know. And Poland is going to start construction of their massive border fortification along the border with Belarus in 2025, When completed, this will be the largest border fortification built in Europe since World War II, when the French built the Maginot Line. It will consist of a security zone with natural and man-made obstacles to slow an invasion. It will take advantage of natural obstacles such as thick forests and boggy areas, and will include anti-tank obstacles, anti-tank trenches, minefields, bomb shelters for civilians, bunkers for Polish troops, and pre-positioned assets for quick response. The price of this border fortification will be over $3 billion, the equivalent of $3 billion, or 10 billion Polish zloty. Okay, so that is a huge investment by Poland. Again, the biggest border fortification since the Maginot Line, guys. Let that sink in, okay? And we're seeing the U.S. now moving their long-range missiles, Tomahawk missiles, likely nuclear-tipped, into Germany. I mean, we are going back to the Cold War. And the Polish army will map every meter of their border with Belarus, and based on this data, they will decide where and what fortifications will be built. The Polish army wants to acquire a machine for building bunkers. This machine is also to be used for the purposes of building fortifications and shelters related to civil defense. And the name of this fortification is going to be called the Eastern Shield, or Tarcza Wschód in Polish. And it's going to be physically created starting in the first quarter of 2025. So this is absolutely huge. And the Polish General Staff identified the following requirements for this Polish border fortification. They want to strengthen anti-surprise capabilities to basically limit any kind of surprise attack by Russia and Belarus. They want to limit the opponent's mobility, which is what all the fortifications and obstacles and boggy terrain and forests are going to do. They want to ensure the mobility of their own troops, which is what bunkers are going to do, pre-positioned assets, and increase the security of their own forces and the local civilian population. Now, what's crazy about this border fortification is that it's going to stretch 50 kilometers along Poland's entire border with Belarus. 50 kilometers, guys. That's like 30 miles. And there's going to be different types of obstacles in this 50-kilometer section, okay? Depending on the natural terrain, etc., depending on villages and where they're located, they're going to have different types of fortifications, but it's going to be 50 kilometers wide, okay? Here we have a picture showing one of these fortifications. So here you can see an anti-tank trench. They have bridges here that are going to be booby-trapped so they can quickly blow them up remotely if necessary. They're going to have various types of fortified defensive positions at key locations. They're going to have pre-positioned ammunition stocks. They're going to have bomb shelters for civilians in villages close to the border. So this is just an extensive border fortification. Here's a picture of the Polish defense minister and the Polish general, and they're showing an example of one of the fortifications here. You can see just rows and rows of Czech hedgehogs. Then they have areas in between the Czech hedgehogs where they can put anti-tank mines and anti-personnel mines. They're going to be putting bollards on roads that they can lift up. Okay, bollards are those like concrete pillars that stick out of the ground around government buildings to prevent people from ramming into buildings. They're going to put these remotely controlled bollards under all the main roads so they can lift them up to slow down any kind of invading force. And again, this is just to slow down an invading force. It's not going to stop them. It's going to slow them down. Okay, then they're showing here forested terrain that Poland would take advantage of, more civilian bomb shelters. I mean, just absolutely crazy, guys. This is huge. And at the NATO summit, Zelensky said that the amount of F-16s that are going to be given to Ukraine is still not enough. He said the Russian Federation uses 300 aircraft against Ukraine every day. We had a decision on 10 to 20 F-16s. Even if there's 50, it's nothing. Wow. And the White House blamed China for supporting Russia's war in Ukraine. And the Minister of Defense of Ukraine called for Ukrainians who are currently in Europe to join the Ukrainian Legion that will be trained in Poland. So they're going to be gathering all these Ukrainian nationals outside of Ukraine that fled from the war and are living in Western Europe. And they're going to be housed and trained in Poland. And here we have a picture of some National Guard units that were deployed at Washington, D.C. And here we have a picture showing some National Guard units that were deployed to the NATO summit to provide security. This is in Washington, D.C. And Russian state media is claiming that the Russian FSB arrested an individual recruited by Ukraine's intelligence directorate with Russian citizenship who was planning to assassinate 3 high-ranking Russian Ministry of Defense officials. Apparently, he was going to use explosive devices that were concealed under gift wrappings. Upon interrogation, the suspect confessed to having been recruited by Ukrainian intelligence. And according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, yesterday, the Russian military shot down 38 drones. 21 were shot down over the Rostov region, 7 over the Kursk region, 5 over Astrakhan, 3 over Belgorod, and 2 over Voronezh. And the U.S. government has dismantled a Russian disinformation campaign that used AI-powered bots to create nearly 1,000 fake social media profiles on Twitter promoting pro-Kremlin narratives by impersonating Americans. The operation, funded by a member of Russia's FSB and developed by an RT Russia Today deputy editor-in-chief, involved creating fake posts and videos to influence geopolitical narratives. The FBI, alongside international partners, released a joint cybersecurity advisory detailing the bot farm's technology and schemes intent to undermine support for Ukraine. Okay, so this is huge news, guys. Okay, an AI-powered bot farm dismantled by the FBI that was creating fake social media profiles on Twitter or X to promote pro-Russian narratives. So a lot of these trolls that you guys see in the comments and in my live streams, probably at least half of them, if not more, are probably just these bots. Okay, they're not real people. I want to just share some flight paths with you guys. So this was 2 nights ago when the Russian nuclear war radars were blaring, and we had multiple Russian doomsday planes head east to the Urals. And as far as I know, Putin was not scheduled to go anywhere in Siberia or in Asia. So this was very, very unusual. And last night we had a Russian National Guard plane fly to northwest Belarus to this base here in Grodno, right on the border of Poland and Lithuania in the Suwalki Gap. This is absolutely huge, guys. This is Russia moving troops into Belarus, right into the Suwalki Gap area. Absolutely insane. And we do have a massive amount of VIP planes coming from Tehran going to St. Petersburg, Russia. Okay, an Iranian government plane took off from Tehran earlier this morning and is heading towards St. Petersburg, and it's accompanied by several Russian VIP planes. Okay, so potentially the new Iranian president may be visiting Putin. So this is very, very serious. And we had more NATO reconnaissance activity in the Baltics and in Poland. Here we have a Swedish reconnaissance plane that was patrolling Poland's border with Belarus and Russia. Here we have a private reconnaissance plane that was patrolling the Estonian-Latvian border with Russia. And here we have a Spanish Air Force reconnaissance plane looping over Lithuania. And here we have a British aerial refueler that was operating off the coast of Lebanon. Here we have an Estonian Air Force plane that was patrolling their border with Finland and Russia here, okay, their coastline. And here we have the flight path of an Estonian Air Force plane patrolling their coastline of the Gulf of Finland. And here we have an Estonian Air Force plane patrolling the Estonian Baltic coast. And here we have a German Air Force cargo plane going to Vilnius in Lithuania. More military cargo planes going into the Baltics, reinforcing them. We continue to see 24-hour coverage of this area here just north of Iceland with E-3 sentries. These are AWACS planes or radar planes. They're constantly maintaining coverage of this area in the Norwegian Sea. Very, very concerning. Here we have a shift change, so to speak. So you can see one looping here and then another one coming up from Germany to replace it. And then this is right now. There's one looping right now just north of Iceland. We had a sub-hunter off the coast of Taiwan. We also had a sub-hunter patrolling Japan, which is pretty unusual. And Japan's defense ministry confirmed that the Chinese Shandong aircraft carrier, escorted by some of China's newest and most advanced warships, was located 500 kilometers southeast of Okinawa, Japan, yesterday, July 9th. Okay, so 300 miles southeast of Okinawa, we have the Chinese Shandong aircraft carrier with their best warships. Okay, that is very concerning. And over the last 48 hours, China sent a massive amount of warplanes and warships to Taiwan, as many as 70 Chinese warplanes and 30 Chinese warships. Now, what's concerning is that China sent their J-16 fighter jets, their H-6 nuclear bombers, and their KJ-500 radar planes. So this is definitely preparation for some kind of a strike on Taiwan if they're including fighter jets, nuclear bombers, and radar planes in these sorties. Okay, this is absolutely insane. And what you're looking at here is a picture of a U.S. Ohio-class nuclear-armed ballistic missile submarine, the USS Louisiana, having supplies delivered to it by a helicopter. And this was in the Pacific Ocean in an undisclosed location. Now, what's interesting is you can see mountains in the background. So this could have been off the coast of Japan. It could have been off the coast of a Pacific island somewhere. Okay, but you can see these mountains in the background. And this USS Louisiana is getting resupplied. And this was shared by the U.S. military. Okay, so here you can see those supplies being dropped. Okay, this is what they do. They surface for supplies every few weeks, and then they go to port every 6 months for routine maintenance, okay? But these subs can stay in the ocean basically forever. And you see these squares here? These little squares are actually the locations where our nuclear missiles would be launched from. These are the tubes, okay? The launch tubes are underneath these squares. These are doors that open up. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, okay? The Ohio-class subs have 24 launch tubes, and they can carry the Trident missiles, which are the most powerful submarine-launched ballistic missiles in the world. So this sub right here can carry 24 Trident missiles. Each Trident missile could have 10 warheads on it, half megaton each. That's 250 warheads just on one sub, and we have 14 of them officially. Okay, so a massive amount of firepower, obviously a show of force to China, and this is where the Shandong aircraft carrier strike group is located right now, okay, right off the coast of Japan. And you can see It's actually kind of close to Taiwan and the Philippines. And so the Chinese are positioning themselves to attack either the Philippines or Taiwan based on where they're located. Very concerning. And the IDF is preparing for ground action in southern Lebanon from several directions, according to Israeli military sources. And former Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz said that the time has come for Lebanon to pay the price. And the IDF says it wrapped up a 2-week-long raid in Gaza City's Shejaiya neighborhood, which included the demolition of 8 major Hamas tunnels and the elimination of more than 150 Hamas gunmen. And apparently in Houston, there's still over 1 million people without power, and there are massive lines for food and fuel. So this is one reason why we prepare, guys, okay? It's not just for nuclear war, EMPs, but also natural disasters. Okay, you got to think of these hurricanes like a nuclear bomb. The damage that a hurricane does is actually worse than a nuclear bomb. Okay, I mean, one Category 5 hurricane can literally flatten multiple cities, okay, and destroy, billions of dollars worth of property, okay? That is more destructive than any single nuclear bomb. Okay, but nobody really prepares for that because it's not as sexy, it's not as interesting. But these little things like hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, you need to be prepared for because they happen more frequently than nuclear war. And we do have a tornado watch up for the Northeast. We have a widespread area under a tornado watch. We have northern Vermont, upstate New York, and interior Pennsylvania under this tornado watch. And I want to just show you guys the current radar. You can see all these tornadoes popping up in western New York and in central New York. Looks like near Rochester and the Finger Lakes, a bunch of tornadoes are popping up. Also in the Allegheny Mountains of Pennsylvania, we're seeing a bunch of tornadoes popping up here. And also in the Catskill Mountains, it looks like there's some tornadoes popping up. Adirondacks, I'm sorry. We have a huge storm here just northeast of Syracuse. Absolutely insane. So if you live in this area, be prepared for tornadoes. And I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news. I will be going live probably around 10 p.m. Eastern time or so. So until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.